All right, so today we're going to be talking about arguably the most important aspect of growing your business in today's world, and that is hiring. So most small business owners get this wrong. I see this almost on a daily basis where small business owners think that they know who they want to hire, why they're hiring them, where they should find this person, what this person should look like, what skills they should have, check all the boxes. And they hire the person comes into the business, maybe they make it 3 weeks, maybe they make it 3 months, maybe they make it 3 years. But at the end of the day, that person is not with the business long term, which makes it incredibly hard to grow your business. So today, I am going to break down those common mistakes. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it the right way, and I'm going to do it step by step. So if you're trying to grow your business, you're struggling, you're stuck below 10 million a year, and you just haven't really figured this whole hiring thing out yet, then this video will help you in a tremendous way. So to get started, we first need to understand kind of the background, the bare essentials that we're going to need for hiring someone. And that starts long before we ever put out any sort of information about what we're hiring for. That starts when we determine what the values are for our company. Now, if you don't have company values, I would strongly encourage you to stop what you're doing right this second and focus on that, because the values are the most important aspect of your business, at least when it comes to hiring the right people. Now, values are really just 3 to 5. You can have maybe 6 if you really want to, but these are the common values. These are the core characteristics of every person in your organization. And these are the characteristics that you should be looking for in every person that you bring into your business, and you should also be looking for them continuously. You should be looking for growth, and if you're not seeing that, then you probably have the wrong people in your business. Now, every business has different values. You can look at other businesses that you really aspire to be like and take some inspiration, but some of the values that I especially like are things like problem solving. You're someone who can solve problems. You're not going to complain when a problem comes up. You're going to look for an opportunity. So opportunity-minded or solution-oriented, those are good values to have. Another one that I really like is hardworking or persistent. You want to have someone who's hardy working in your business. You don't want somebody who just gives up every time a problem arises. And another one, of course, especially in today's world, it's getting hard to find, but I like integrity. Integrity is someone who's going to do the right thing no matter what. And if you can't trust the people that work in your business, I don't know how you're going to grow with them. So once you find what the values are for your company, I would recommend 3 to 5 of these. Then I want you to collaborate with your team. If you have employees currently, talk to them, see what they think about it, get their input, see if you should change anything, add any additional ones. And once you have that, now you kind of have the very basic core criteria for the type of person that you're going to be hiring for. Now, the next thing you're going to need before you can start hiring is obviously a job description. Now, a job description is often very misunderstood. And my goal today is to get all the confusion away from a job description. A job description should include these things. So it should tell not just you as the owner, but it should clearly articulate to the potential employee what the job actually is. So many business owners don't even put what the job is. They have some kind of loosey-goosey, you're going to kind of do some of these things, you're going to do some of these things, and it's a catch-all role, which you can have. You can have a generalist role, but if you just throw a bunch of random stuff in there and you're not clear on what the job is, you are setting yourself up as the person hiring this new employee and the employee up for absolute failure. The other thing that you want to do is you want to get clear on why you are hiring this person. And I would include this in the job description. So why this role? Why now? Why are we hiring for this? If you can clearly articulate that, not just for your own good, but for the person that you're hiring, and they can understand, they're hiring for this role for these reasons, and I also believe that I can be of value for those exact same reasons, you've got a much, much higher likelihood of getting a great candidate. Another thing is, how? Okay? How is this person going to work in your business? All right? Now this one's very misunderstood. How they're going to work in your business is, how are they going to work with others, and how are they going to work as an individual contributor? Okay, so what this would look like in a job description is something like, let's take a marketing role. So let's say they're a social media marketing coordinator. All right, so how do they fit into the equation? All right, well, how you're going to do your work is you're going to be collaborating with the marketing manager, and how you're going to be working as an individual is you're going to be creating, maybe on a daily basis or a weekly basis, you're going to be creating social media content, scripts and outlines, and getting them ready to review with the marketing manager. Okay, so that's a working with someone else, and that's working by yourself. If you're very clear on that, then the people that are wanting to work in your business and are wanting to get hired, they're going to have a much clearer idea and a much better understanding of, is this job going to suit me or is it not? Because if they're a fantastic individual contributor, but they hate working on a team, and it's a team-based role, they're probably not going to be a good fit. And then the last one is who. And who points directly back to values. So who is this person really? You know, what do they really believe? What are their core characteristics as a person? And do those align with the values of my company? That is huge. It's probably the most important aspect. Do they share the values that every other person in your business shares? Now, caveat here. If the person has those values, but maybe they're lacking in a couple of categories, that's not the end of the world. As long as they believe in that value and they're going to continue to work towards growing in that area, no problem. And then a little bit of a bonus one here is going to be where. So this doesn't necessarily go in your job description, but it gives you an idea of where you're going to find someone that will fit this job description. And that takes us to the first part of the hiring process, which is recruiting. And this is a very misunderstood part of the hiring process as well. And here's why. Most people jump straight to the hiring. So they get the job description out there. Half the time, they don't even have a job description. They find somebody walks through the door, they say, hey, I need a job. Great, you're hired. Boom. Well, what did we need the values for in the job description and all that? If you're just going to hire, whoever walks through the door or whoever calls you on the phone and says, hey, I need a job. How do you know who that person is? How do you know that they have the skills necessary? You don't. And that's why recruiting is so important. Recruiting is basically the steering wheel for the hiring process. This is where you get to decide, what is this person going to do? Why are they going to do it? How are they going to do it? Who do they look like? And I need to know where they're coming from. Okay? So there's a few ways to find people, and with very few exceptions to this rule, this is where you're going to find someone for your company. In fact, I don't know any other way to find someone. Of course, you can drill down into each of these categories, but outside of these, there's none that I know of. So you can have one-to-one. So this could be either with a stranger or with someone that you know. So let's say like a friend. Okay? So you got a stranger, you got a friend. The stranger is what we would consider cold, someone you don't know. And your friend is going to be someone considered warm, someone you do know. You also have one-to-many. And you could get this by posting a job ad. And then the only other way is referrals. Now, these can be, again, cold or warm. So these could be people that you know. These could be people that you don't know. Great example of a referral could be from your current employees. Maybe they have friends or family that need a job or want a job. So they say, hey, here's my friend, John. He needs a job. Great, fantastic. You didn't really have to do a whole lot of work there. But now you get to figure out, okay, is this the person that I need? Odds are, if they're friends with someone that works in your company and that person shares the core values of your company, odds are they're probably going to be in alignment and they're probably going to be a lot closer to someone that you want to actually hire and not someone that's just completely random off the street that you got to really thoroughly vet. Really 4 ways. One-to-one, one-to-many, cold, warm, referrals. For referrals, you can go to other business owners. I personally really like this one because so many businesses out there are maybe a good fit for certain people and others are not such a good fit. But let's say a great candidate walks through the door. They don't really have the core values for your business, but they seem to have a lot of good skills and maybe a couple values that fit well in someone else's business. Hey, that's a great way to add value in your network. Refer them to someone else. And hopefully they'll refer someone to you. So, employees, business owners, of course, family and friends are kind of a no-brainer. The more people you can reach out to, the better, especially if you're very clear on what you're looking for and who you're looking for. Once you have your kind of recruiting process in place, and again, another caveat here is you can outsource this. So you're probably wondering, oh, what if I hire a recruiting agency? What if I hire a recruiter to do maybe a dedicated search or maybe refer me as the business owner to their network? That's still a one-to-one. So that's still, if you don't know the recruiter, they're a stranger. Okay, that's cold. You do know them. They're warm. Okay, and then they're just taking this process and doing it for you. So they're taking this and saying, okay, well, I'm going to ask, my employees if they know someone. I'm going to refer to my partnership network. And so they're going to do this for you. And they're going to charge you for it, which is not always a bad thing. You can work through a recruiter if you really want to, but I'm showing you exactly how you can do it yourself. So that's the recruiting process. Now, once you've gone through the recruiting process, now you can start the hiring process. So you're starting to reach out to people. Here's where the hiring process starts. The hiring process, at least how we define it, how we break it down, this is once you've gotten past this initial phase and you're starting to interview people. So this is where you're interviewing. You are vetting. And most importantly, you are aligning. Let's break those down. So in the hiring process, you've already gone through this stage here. And you've weeded out all the people that you say, no, they're not going to work for my company. Now that you're at the hiring phase, you're sitting down with the people that you think actually have potential. I'm a big believer in a 2-meeting interview process. One that's 15 minutes, one that's 30 to 45. The first one, the 15-minute, this is really just a, hey, is this person actually who they say they are? You're really not looking for technical here. You've already gone through their skills in this recruiting process. You've already kind of weeded through and figured out, okay, these are the people that were referred to me. These are the people that I talked to. And you've kind of felt out, all right, this resume makes sense. I want to talk to this person. This resume does not make sense. The 15-minute call or sit down, coffee, whatever you want to do, that should literally just be a, hey, do they seem to have the values that align with my business? Are they even going to work? Because at this point, if they don't have the values, there's no reason to dig into all their technical skills. No reason whatsoever. Here you are just looking for, is this a person that I could see working with on a regular basis, and would they be a great fit for me and my team? Then if they are a good fit, then you can do the second meeting, which is a 30 to 45 minute meeting. Honestly, there's really no reason, unless you're having like a lunch or a dinner, to make it an hour or longer. If all you're doing is running through their experience and kind of setting the stage for what it would look like to be hired in your business, then great. I think 30 to 45 minutes is plenty of time. So during this process, between the 15 minute and the 30 to 45 minute meeting, you should be vetting this person. You should be vetting them in the 15-minute conversation, which is literally just, hey, is this person who I think that they actually are? Between these two meetings, you should be reaching out to their network and saying, hey, so-and-so is at my company. They are asking for a job. I'm really considering hiring them. I just want to make sure that they have all the skills and they're the person that they say that they are, because I take hiring in my company very seriously. So you can vet them, ask them for a couple of people that you could talk to. Doesn't necessarily have to be the president of their last company. It could be a coworker. It could be anybody. Make sure they are who they say that they are. And then during this process, you should be creating alignment. So what is alignment? Alignment is, all right, here's my expectations. What are your expectations for how this is going to go? So here are my expectations for this process, for the interview process, and here is what you should expect from me as the owner, as the person hiring you. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's the breakdown. We're going to have a 15-minute meeting. Then I'm going to do a little bit of homework, and then we're gonna meet again if you're a good fit for this role. If not, I'm gonna go ahead and let you know that. You're also gonna set the stage for something later in the process, which is called onboarding, and you're gonna give them an idea of what it would look like next steps after you decide, hey, you're the person that I want to hire and you're a fit. Now I want to bring you into my business. So the alignment here is really probably the most important part of the hiring process, because in order to create alignment, you have to have great communication and you have to set clear expectations with a clear line for accountability. So on your side and on theirs. Here's the expectation, here's the standard, here's what to expect. Now, what should I expect from you? What questions do you have, and how can I clarify anything about this process for you? Whether it's the job, whether it's, what we're going to do, what our next steps are going to be, what we're going to talk about, anything like that. The more communication that you can have and the more alignment that you can create, the more trust you're going to have. And even if you don't end up hiring that person, they're going to be saying great things about you for a long time to come. And if you do hire them, you've got a huge head start on building that bridge of trust so that you guys can work together. So once you've gone through the hiring phase, you're going to do these things. You're going to interview them. You're going to vet them. You're going to create that alignment. And then once you find the person you want to hire, you're going to hire them. You're going to say, hey, boom, you're my choice. Pro tip here. When you make the offer, so I'm going to write offer here. That's important. Most people don't do this. They don't create a proper hiring offer. Your offer should include how much they're going to make. It should include when they're going to start. It should include any and all benefits. It should include everything that's in the job description, what they're going to be doing, why they're going to be doing it, how they're going to be working as an individual and maybe as a part of a team, hopefully as a part of a team. You're also going to have the values in there, which should already be in your job description, really. And you're going to make this formal offer in writing. Again, to create the alignment to uphold those expectations. So there's no wiggle room for any sort of misunderstandings. Now, here's the pro tip. When you create the offer, do not tell all of the rest of your candidates, potential candidates, or potential employees, all of your candidates, do not tell them, we found someone, we don't need you anymore. Because what happens very often is that you make the offer and they say, you know what, I found a better option. And a lot of times you can't negotiate out of this. You can't up the stakes for them to where they're going to want to stay with you instead of going to someone else. So keep that in mind. Only once you have someone who's accepted the offer, you've got a signed offer, can you tell everybody else, hey, we found someone, we're bringing them on board. Now, I would keep some of those people, I would keep their contact information, because just in case, even if you follow this process, there is the once in a blue moon, the wild hair that pops up, that the person comes in and all of a sudden they just totally implode. It happens. Talk to any recruiter, it happens. They've had at least one in their career where some craziness happens. Either the person doesn't work out because something came up, maybe their health, maybe their family, who knows, anything can happen in the real world. So keep their contact information. If you have some people that are, kind of your second best or your third best, keep their information just in case. You don't have to say anything to them. You can say, hey, we'd love to stay in touch. We'd love to maintain this relationship. But set yourself up for success and make the offer, but don't tell everybody else that it's a done deal until the offer's signed. Now, once you've done this, you're ready to onboard. So you've hired your person, you made the offer, everybody signed. Now you're going to roll into onboarding. And this is huge. This is a massively, massively, massively important part of hiring someone. If you do this right, this will set the stage for the rest of their time at your company. If you do this wrong, they're probably not going to be at your company for much longer. All right, so how can we do onboarding like a pro? One of the first things you need to have is you need to have everything for that role outlined in something we call an SOP. An SOP stands for Standardized Operating Procedure. You probably will also hear at some point in your life or in your career this being referred to as a playbook. I like to have something called an operating manual. So all an operating manual is a series of standard operating procedures for a specific role. So if you really want to do it right, then go through and create an operating manual and include every standardized operating procedure necessary for that role. So what this would look like is, let's say, using the same example of a social media marketing coordinator, you're going to go through and basically have a list of everything that role does and then the SOP to go with it. So let's say one of their responsibilities is to post on Facebook and Instagram 3 times a week. So maybe you have an SOP for the content creation, so how to create the content, what steps need to be taken in order to create a good piece of content. Then maybe you have the next SOP, which is for scheduling out that content, or maybe you have an approval step in there, so how to do the approval process, who to go to for that, what tools you use to schedule, and how to do that process. So that's just an example. So there's roles that are very simple and have very few SOPs, and there's other roles that are very technical and very complex and require a lot of documentation for a new employee to really understand what it is that they need to do and exactly how to do it. So with that in mind, one of the best things that you can do right out of the gate is create this manual. If you do not have this manual, start working on it after you hire the person and make it a collaborative effort. Work with them to give them the tools, enable them to be successful. So, what should they be learning in the onboarding phase, and how is this different than training? A lot of people just jump right into training. They forget the onboarding step. In onboarding, they should learn a few very important things that are a little bit different than what they would be trained on. So one of those is they need to understand who everyone is in the business. So think about, if you just let's say you have a son or a daughter, and they get married, and you don't know anything about the person. You just met the person the day they get married, and your son or daughter just shows up. Hey, we're married. This is John, or this is Sally. Things are going to be a little bit awkward. They're not going to know really who you are. You're not really going to know who they are. They're not really going to know anybody else in the family. And it's the same way in a business. So make sure you introduce them and show them who everyone is in the business. You should also reiterate what your vision is as a company and as an owner. This will build trust, and hopefully they will be even more excited about this new role. Same thing with your mission. So, what is it that we're doing, and why are we doing it? You can also go over their role again here in onboarding. So this is going to provide them even more clarity around their role and what they're doing. And it's really important to note, you want to give them as much context as possible here. The more context, usually the better. Now, context specific to their role and why it's important, why it matters, and why they do the things that they do. Because you could just throw out a whole bunch of context around a whole bunch of things and really confuse them. We want to make sure it's specific to their role and how and why the company operates the way that it does. I would also reiterate the values here. So not just the values of the company, but if they're on a team, you can have team values as well. So if you have a sales team, marketing team, even the leadership team in and of itself could have its own set of values. And if they're coming onto that team, they should understand what those values are as well. So the ultimate thing that we're trying to do here is create clarity. And the more clarity that you can create for the employee, the better. The less confused they are, it's going to mean the less headaches, the less frustration, the less overall likelihood that they're going to get fed up with your business and leave. We don't want that. We don't want that at all. In fact, what we want is questions. We want lots and lots of questions. Questions mean that they're engaged, it means they're interested, it means they're curious, and it means that they are growing. Now, this onboarding phase can take really as much time or as little time as you want, as long as you have it. So if you've got someone coming into a very non-technical role, it's very basic, this may be a stretch, but you could have onboarding that is only a day, maybe 2 days. Whereas for a more technical role, or maybe they're coming into a very strategic position or a very important position, and you want to give them a lot of context about your business, and maybe you're hiring a CEO. You're gonna want to give them a lot of time to onboard into your company. And another word that I think works well here, a substitute for onboarding is incorporating. And I like this word because it gives you an idea. I think it's more encompassing. It shows you, all right, we're not just training this person on what they need to do and that's it. We are truly making an effort to establish relationships and make their life as good as we can and as stress-free as we can, while also setting the expectation and upholding the standard that we set, way back here in the hiring process. So, you're incorporating this person into your business, you're onboarding them. Again, could be 2 days, could be 2 weeks, could be 2 months. That is up to you. The best way to really figure this out and what the best time frame is for onboarding is ask people. So if you have people leaving your company, even if they're not leaving your company, hopefully you're already doing this, but if they're leaving your company, in an exit interview, you need to ask them, hey, what were some of the things that we could have done better when we hired you? How can we improve the onboarding process for the next person? So, and you can also talk to current employees. I think that's best. Say, hey, what would you do? What would you teach someone if they're coming in to, take on your role or take on a similar role? So once you've onboarded someone, then you can start training them. Now, the way I look at training and the way I look at onboarding is a little bit less technical. It's more about getting familiar with who people are, why things are the way that they are, where things are, and kind of what the job entails. Training is more about the practical and the tactical. It's about, here are all the things that need to be done on a regular basis that you might not have gotten really into depth with yet. Maybe you haven't had a lot of practice with this yet when you're coming from onboarding to training. So here's what training should look like. I'm going to go ahead and write it here. What training should look like is it should look like short-term enablement for long-term growth. Okay, so the key here in training, now we want to enable people all through here, all through the process, but if you can enable someone properly while you're training them, you're going to create basically a multiplier of efforts. Because if you give them the access to the right tools and to the right people, to the right knowledge while you're training them, you're not going to have to turn around and answer every single question. You're not going to have to stop what you're doing and put out a fire for them. You can do what you need to do while they're doing what they need to do. So, how can you train someone effectively? Now, you don't have to train as the owner someone or really every person in your organization directly. In fact, at a certain size, you should not be doing that. You should be delegating that to other people. But this framework applies to not just you as the owner, but it applies to anyone that's training other people in your organization. So, how do you do this process properly? The first thing you need to do is educate the person, okay? So, the reason we have the SOPs, the reason we have all of this information is so that we can pass it on to other people, so that we're not having to be the bottleneck or the obstacle that is keeping knowledge from flowing and information from getting from one party to the next, and ultimately slowing down the growth of our business. So the first thing we want to do is educate. So this is kind of like a more in-depth version of the onboarding process, but it's much more information heavy in regards to the specific tasks that they're going to be handling in their role. So let's say your onboarding process is 2 days. Hey, this is who everyone is. Here's why you're here. This is what we're doing. Just so you know, on Wednesdays we have snack day. Fridays is pizza and wear your jeans or, whatever. Get them introduced to the culture initially here in the onboarding. In the training, you're going to be educating on, okay, you're going to need to look here for the SOPs. You're going to need to refer to this SOP and this SOP to do this, this, and this. Oh, and if you get stuck, you need to go to this person. If you have a question about this thing, you need to go to this person, which, mind you, now they know who that is because they went through onboarding. Okay, so they know who everyone is, so now you're not having to backpedal and backtrack and try to explain, oh, this is so-and-so, she's in accounting, and that so-and-so, she's in marketing. No, now you can say, hey, you already know everybody, you know why you're here, so let's get into how you can use that information that we just learned about. Okay, so you're going to educate them first. Ideally, this training process will be done by someone who has done the role before, or someone who knows a lot about the role. Maybe it's a new role, but you designed it. That's okay. You can do the training because you can give the extra context around every single step. So once you've educated them on what they're doing, then you need to demonstrate how it's done. So when it comes to demonstrating, one of the big mistakes I see here is running through something and not pausing long enough for questions, not being conscious of little nuanced things that maybe only you know, and you're not explaining it as you're going. So maybe you know, let's just say it's, let's pick a pool company. And let's say you're training a new pool technician. Or let's say they're just a cleaner. They're not even a technician at this point. They're a cleaner. And you've given them all the information that they need to know about, you know, you've onboarded them. You've told them where everything is. You've showed them, you know, this is how we operate. And you've educated them and you've given them the information of, okay, if you put this amount of chlorine in the pool, this is the effect, here's the cause, here's the effect of you putting this amount of chlorine in. If you put X amount of chlorine in, you get Y amount of increase in total chlorine level, or X amount of increase in free chlorine level. If you add this much, you know, pH increaser, here's how much it's going to increase. All right, you've given them the information. Now you're demonstrating it, and you know, maybe you're just going along and you take a couple of tabs of chlorine out and you throw them in. Seems pretty simple, right? While you're doing that, you can explain to them, hey, just so you know, in the SOP it says, you know, to take the tabs out of the bucket and to put them into the chlorinator. But something you might not be aware of is it's a little nuanced thing that we all do, but you know, if nobody's told you, let me go ahead and tell you while I'm doing it. Here's what would happen if you just drop the chlorine in versus sliding it into the tube or gently placing it. See, when you just drop it in, it's going to splash up and probably burn your eyes, or it will bleach out your clothes. Any number of bad things can happen. So the reason I'm demonstrating it this way, so I'm demonstrating a right way and a wrong way. Okay, now you don't necessarily have to demonstrate a wrong way in every circumstance, but again, you are trying to create as much clarity as possible so that they don't have to go through the pain and grief of learning it all over when you already know everything about how to do that. At least a lot more than they do. So keep that in mind when you're demonstrating. Make sure to show them, you know, this is the right way and this is how it should be done, because if you do it wrong, this can happen. All right? Me personally, if somebody tells me to do something, I'm going to immediately go, I wonder why they do it like that. And then if I see them do it, I'm going to say, oh, okay, well, I know they told me to do it this way, but maybe that way looks a little bit different in my mind. You know, maybe in my mind, the way they put the chlorine in the tube, you know, maybe it looked like they were dropping it, but maybe they dropped it at a different angle. Maybe they were standing in a certain spot. So again, it's the little nuanced things that you need to really focus on conveying, because if not, what happens is we'll use a company. I worked with a pool company before, and they hired this new guy. He had a bucket of chlorine, and you know, from time to time you'd hear someone say, "Oh, you know, you don't want to open the bucket of chlorine with your face right over it because, you know, it smells like chlorine. It's kind of strong. It's a strong smell." But no one explained that when you have chlorine that gets wet and then you seal the bucket and sun hits it and causes it to evaporate, now you have a chlorine gas that's built up. And when you open the lid, even if your face is not directly over it, that chlorine gas is going to escape immediately. And sure enough, that happened to this poor guy, and because no one explained that nuanced thing, no one demonstrated in a controlled environment to show him what would happen, and he got chemical burns in his lungs. Okay, his sinuses, his throat, he was really tore up, and because of that, the employer had to pay him for some short-term workers' comp because he had to go to the hospital. So, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, if you run an accounting firm, but the equivalent of that is, if they do this the wrong way, maybe your client pays too much in taxes, or maybe your client's not aware of money that they have in a certain part of the business, and they make a poor financial move based on the information that you gave them. So there's an equivalent in every business. Just understand that what might not seem like a big deal to you, or what might seem like common sense, when you're demonstrating it, make sure you explain, this is why we do it like this. Okay, now, the next part is guiding. So when you're guiding someone, you want to think of this as, I cannot intervene with my hands. I can only intervene with my words. I cannot steer them by grabbing a hold of them and doing it the way that I want it done. I need them to be able to do it on their own and just refer to me as backup, basically. So when you're guiding someone, think hands off, and you really want questions asked. So if you don't give them the chance to ask the questions, then you're probably not guiding them well. Now, if you did a phenomenal job when you're educating them and when you're demonstrating, this is the right way, here's some of the wrong ways, maybe they don't have a whole lot of questions immediately, and that's where kind of the next part of this comes in, which is enablement. And when you're enabling someone, you can think of it as you're giving them the tools and knowledge to be successful. And enablement is really kind of long-term guidance towards growth. So in my mind, I think of enabling as, okay, what would I want if I was in his shoes? And then I do everything I can to give that to that person. So this process, all of this training, this again can take, this could take anywhere from maybe a week, 2 weeks, to 2 years. Now I know you're probably sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, 2 years, who's training somebody for 2 years? Man, they're terrible at this. Well, think about a lot of skilled trades. Think of, maybe you're a welder and you are an apprentice under somebody for a year, and I'm speaking to you as a business owner here, so you're probably the guy who started the welding business, and now you're bringing somebody in that knows nothing about welding. So now you've got to transfer all of that knowledge. Think about all the things that you've learned. Think about all the things, maybe you're bringing somebody new in, like we used the pool company example, okay? Someone who may have never owned a pool, most likely, never owned a pool. Maybe they've never been around pools, and especially never cared for a pool. So they don't know anything about the chemical balance. They don't know anything about water hardness. They don't know anything about anything related to your business. And maybe that process takes you a couple of months to really convey and get across to them. So again, just like onboarding, you can feel out what's going to be best in terms of training by asking your employees, hey, do you feel like you're adequately trained for what you do on a day-to-day basis? Do you feel confident in it? Or do you think you need some more training? And by the way, training the way most people think about it, at least small business owners, they think it's all right, I taught you how to do it. You should know how to do it. End of story. I taught it to you. You're screwing stuff up now. What's going on? Why didn't you learn? And that's not necessarily that person's fault. You have to take the responsibility as the owner and say, how can I, again, this is enablement. How can I enable this person to have the highest likelihood of success in that role? It's on you. It's not on them. It's on you. If you got the right person in your business, the reason they're not successful is not because they're not the right person. It's because now you haven't taught them properly. Okay, so how do we do training in a way that keeps people for a long time? Because, at least in my experience, the best people stay the longest because there's opportunity for them. Okay, so how do you create that opportunity? That's going to be through development. Now, you can think of development as long-term training plus opportunities. So no one likes to learn a whole bunch and then they can't do anything with their knowledge. It's like a quote that I learned a few years ago that I really love, and it's theory without practice is pointless, practice without theory is blind. So if you're going to teach somebody something, give them opportunities to use that knowledge. It's going to further solidify it for them, and that's, I mean, at least in my case, that's how I learn best, is I learn something, I can apply it. I learn something, I can apply it. It's the same thing with employees in your business. So if we think about long-term growth plus opportunities, what does that look like? Okay, long-term growth means growth for them as an individual, as a team player, as maybe a leader in your company, as well as personally a leader for their families, a leader for their communities. So this extends from a developmental standpoint, this extends far past what they do for your company. In reality, you should be doing everything you can to enable them to become the best version of themselves so that they can take advantage of opportunities when they arise. Not even just in your company, okay? If you truly want the best for people in life, they will give you their best. Now, how do you create opportunities? All right, this is not rocket science, this is business. You create opportunities. Ready for it? Drum roll. You create opportunities by growing. Your business has to be growing in order to create new opportunities for people in your business. That's why the best companies that are growing the fastest can keep the best people. Okay? Now, how do you know what opportunities people want? How do you know what long-term growth objectives your employees have? Again, not rocket science here. You need to have one-on-one meetings. Now, you can have some direct reports. As you grow your business, you should have a management team in place that can have these one-on-ones for you. And then their one-on-ones will be with you. And these one-on-ones are really just an open conversation to really truly get to know the people in your organization. If you really understand what is behind the person that you see coming in every day, or maybe you work remotely, so the person that you work with on a regular basis, you can really understand what drives them and what's important to them. So when an opportunity comes up, maybe it's an opportunity to work remotely. Maybe it's an opportunity to move up into a management position where they can work days instead of nights. Or maybe they can work weeks instead of weeks or weekends. So understanding your people is going to help you create opportunities that they're going to actually want, as well as giving them the skill set, giving them the knowledge, again, enablement, giving them the tools and knowledge that they need to be able to actually take advantage of those opportunities when they come to pass. All right, now for the final part of finding the right people for your organization and keeping them for a long time, we need to look at retention. Okay, so what is retention? Retention is pretty basic, but again, it's one of the parts that's really misunderstood. Retention is keeping somebody in your company for a long time. The more important thing is, how do we do this? How we do this is we create alignment. Again, that's why it's so important that even when you're hiring them, you need to have that alignment, and you need to maintain that for a long time. It's alignment plus opportunities plus long-term growth plus future potential. All right, let's break this down. So alignment is really a series of things. What enables an alignment is communication. So I think this is best explained with an example. So if I'm aligned with the values of your company, I'm aligned with the mission, I'm aligned with why you're doing this, what you're doing, I'm aligned with your vision, where we're going, and I really believe in the things that we do to help people. Because that's really all business is. Business is really just a vehicle for providing people value in a marketplace. So if we fundamentally understand what that is, and our employees do too, because employees are people. It's not the boss is some superior being. There are people also, and they're not idiots. So if you can maintain that alignment with them in terms of value, in terms of opportunity, in terms of your vision for the future, you're going to build a tremendous amount of trust. With that trust, you can develop them and enable them to take advantage of opportunities. These opportunities are going to further enable their long-term growth. And the thing that's really going to keep them with you, aside from the alignment, the opportunities, the long-term growth, is really the future potential. Because there's great people that work for an organization for a number of years, and they stay there because they think, I could go somewhere else and I could make a little bit more money. But I think the alignment that I have with this company and the opportunities that they've given me so far and the growth that I have received up to this point, I think even if that other company is going to pay me another $10,000, maybe a $5,000 sign-on bonus or whatever it is, whatever incentive they're offering, I think the future potential of me staying here, now we're talking opportunity cost. What's the cost if I stay here or if I go there? I think the future potential is greater here. I think my return, personally, professionally, from an alignment standpoint, from an opportunities and long-term growth standpoint, I think this is going to be the best place for me. And honestly, the way that you can really feel this out is having those one-on-ones. These one-on-ones, they never stop, or at least they should not stop, because you want that relationship. You want that alignment. You want that long-term growth. And in order to truly realize the talent and the skills and the abilities and the uniqueness of every single individual in your company, you have to be aligned with what it is that they want in their lives. Some people want to work all the time and make more money. Some people want to spend time with their family and they don't care about that extra $15,000 they might get if they sacrifice Saturdays. So get clear on what people want. Again, this is very simple. A lot of business is not complicated. We just make it complicated. So, what do we do now? we have all this information, we have all these things. The first thing you should do, if you don't have it already, is create values. If you need help creating values, you can literally go to the internet and type in values or company values and see countless examples. If you need help with a job description, you can literally go into ChatGPT, you can go to Google, you can look at competitors and see, okay, where do I see these things in their job description? Are they saying what the job is? Are they saying, why they're hiring for the job? Odds are they're not. Because in order to do this properly, you need to have all these elements. But you can look at them as an example of what just getting by looks like. Don't be afraid to go out on a limb and look different than everybody else in your industry, or even in your space if you're local. Don't be afraid of doing this. Sure, is this going to take more time? Absolutely. But are you going to be able to first get the right people and then keep those people for a long time? Yes, absolutely. How do I know this? Because I've done this. Okay? This is not stuff that has come from a textbook. This is not stuff that has been taught, by some sort of HR, professional or recruiter or anything like that. This is from my personal experience of working with 100+ companies in dozens of different industries, mostly service-based small businesses. This is what works. It's nothing revolutionary, but it's what works. And that's what most of business is. It's doing the things that work consistently over a long period of time. Sure, it gets boring, but again, I would rather be bored silly having a successful business than being entertained with all sorts of things and having a failing business. So, if you are struggling with this, I would encourage you to first try. A lot of people just don't even try. I would first try. I would go through the values, I'd create the job description, I'd follow this recruiting process, this hiring process, this onboarding layout, this training, this development, and understand this is what retention looks like. And once you try that, if you're struggling with that, you can't figure it out, one of the things we can do to help you is we have a free community called the Profit Launch Community. It has small business owners just like you in it. And every week we're putting all sorts of value just like this into that community. Okay, our job is to give you the information, the tools, enable you to be successful. Now, if you find value in this and you want us to implement this and a whole lot more into your business, Profit Launch is a 12-week program. It's a proven process that we do in small service-based businesses. You need to be making at least $1 million a year in top-line revenue. And we guarantee a 20% increase in profits within that 12 weeks. Now, if we don't hit that, we'll work with you for free until we do. To date, we have yet to not hit that, and we're very proud of that. We stand by that. And we want to continue to help people through our process, through all the things that we've learned. So if you're interested in Launch, you can shoot us an email, sales@profitlaunch.us. Feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can reach out to me personally on LinkedIn. You can reach out to us on YouTube, but we'll be happy to help you. We can give you resources. We have a lot of free resources, and if we're a good fit to work together, we would love to have you in the Launch program.